Deep underground at a classified facility, a commander is shown something that defies all logic: floating saucers with beings inside, communicating telepathically with human personnel. This isn't science fiction. The Pentagon's All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office identified 21 UAP cases in 2024 that merit further analysis due to anomalous characteristics, and according to 2025's updated intelligence files, these encounters are now reported across 6 U.S. states. The beings claim they're part of a galactic monitoring system, watching how life develops on planets like Earth. But Danny Sheehan's latest research reveals newly declassified documents showing covert crash retrieval protocols dating back to the 1950s. With Congress now mandating quarterly UAP briefings, the real question isn't whether aliens exist, it's what they're really doing here, and the data coming out this year is forcing everyone to pay attention. The 2025 UAP statistics that changed everything. The numbers coming out of 2025 are absolutely staggering. AARO's quarterly reports show over 1,200 UAP incidents documented through official channels this year alone, representing the highest concentration of verified encounters in recorded history. These aren't your typical lights in the sky reports either. We're seeing structured craft, close encounters, and multiple witness events happening at a rate that's forcing government agencies to completely restructure how they handle this phenomenon. The geographic patterns tell a story that's impossible to ignore. Nevada leads with the highest concentration of reported sightings, which makes sense given the military facilities there. But what's really interesting is the emergence of hotspots in places that weren't on anyone's radar before. Wyoming has reported significant encounter clusters, most of them around areas where geological surveys show extensive underground cavern systems. The pattern suggests these beings are using existing geological features for their operations. Military personnel reports have tripled from 2024 numbers, but it's the content of these reports that's really eye-opening. We're seeing detailed accounts from base security personnel describing encounters with craft emerging from what appear to be underground access points. One Air Force sergeant reported watching a disc-shaped object rise directly from the ground at a location where no surface facilities existed. When they investigated the area the next day, ground-penetrating radar showed hollow spaces extending hundreds of feet down. Similar reports are coming from Army installations across multiple states, all describing the same phenomenon of craft emerging from underground locations. The correlation between increased sightings and government disclosure activities is undeniable. Analysis shows sightings spike dramatically after every major disclosure event or congressional hearing. It's as if these beings are responding to our disclosure efforts by increasing their visibility. The beings seem to be calibrating their presence based on our readiness to acknowledge them publicly. Government agencies have completely overhauled their approach to encounters. The old dismissive protocols are being replaced with active investigation frameworks. AARO now operates with full staffing and quarterly briefing requirements to Congress. Type Alpha encounters involve visual sightings with radar confirmation, while Type Gamma covers direct interaction with non-human entities. This new system is being used by military intelligence, NASA, and civilian research organizations to create standardized reporting protocols. Civilian reporting has evolved dramatically with improved verification systems. The Canadian Sky Canada project report shows that between 15 to 40% of civilian reports are being classified as credible after verification processes that cross-reference witness accounts with radar data and military aircraft positions. Citizens can now file reports directly with federal agencies without fear of ridicule or dismissal. This represents thousands of genuine encounters being documented monthly through official channels. The shift from dismissal to active investigation represents a complete reversal of decades-old policies. FBI field offices now have dedicated UAP investigation teams trained in evidence collection and witness interview techniques. The Department of Defense has reassigned personnel from other duties to focus specifically on UAP investigations. NASA has established dedicated research divisions with substantial budgets for 2025. These agencies are treating UAP encounters as legitimate national security matters requiring immediate investigation and documentation. Statistical anomalies in the data point to coordinated non-human activity rather than random encounters. Sightings occur in clusters separated by consistent time intervals across multiple states simultaneously. The craft appear to be following predetermined flight paths that avoid major population centers while maintaining specific altitude profiles. Communication intercepts from military radar operators show these objects responding to air traffic control instructions before official contact is attempted. The precision and coordination suggest a level of organization and intelligence that rules out natural phenomena or experimental human technology. Danny Sheehan's legal work anticipated this statistical explosion. His congressional testimony referenced the fiscal 2024 NDAA provision requiring declassification of UAP documents by September 2025. He argued that disclosure efforts would trigger increased extraterrestrial visibility as these beings prepared humanity for more direct contact. His timeline projected exactly what we're seeing now: massive increases in sightings, coordinated government acknowledgement, and establishment of formal protocols for interaction. These statistics are forcing intelligence agencies to completely reevaluate the scope and nature of the phenomenon. The National Intelligence Council has established assessment groups to analyze the implications of sustained non-human presence on Earth. Their preliminary findings suggest we're dealing with multiple species operating under some form of coordinated supervision. The encounter data shows different types of craft with distinct design characteristics appearing in geographically separated regions, indicating either multiple groups or a single organization with diverse technological capabilities. Regional analysis reveals specific patterns that suggest territorial organization. Pacific Coast encounters predominantly involve triangular craft with silent propulsion systems. Great Lakes region sightings feature disc-shaped objects with visible energy fields. Desert Southwest reports describe cylindrical craft with advanced camouflage capabilities. These regional differences in craft design and behavior suggest either different species with preferred operational areas or a single group using specialized technology for different environments and missions. Intelligence analysts are now treating the 2025 statistics as baseline data for what appears to be a permanent new reality rather than a temporary surge in activity. The numbers aren't declining as the year progresses, they're stabilizing at levels that represent a fundamental change in the relationship between human civilization and whatever intelligence controls these craft. The data suggests we've entered a new phase where these beings are maintaining a consistent, visible presence while working through established channels to formalize contact protocols. But statistics only tell part of the story. To understand what's really happening, we need to look at where these craft are going when they disappear from radar. Recent intelligence suggests the answer lies deep underground at facilities that have been operating in complete secrecy for decades. Inside the updated S4 operations. S4's operational expansion in 2025 has transformed the facility into something far beyond its original scope. New intelligence from inside sources reveals construction crews working around the clock to build additional levels that extend deeper into the Nevada mountainside. Current estimates put the facility at 12 operational levels, each one dedicated to specific aspects of extraterrestrial research and interaction. Workers with security clearances describe massive boring operations that have been ongoing for 8 months, creating new chambers large enough to house craft that dwarf the original recovered vehicles stored there decades ago. Multiple witnesses now confirm that S4 houses at least 18 different craft in separate underground hangars, each one isolated in its own secure area with independent life support and monitoring systems. Unlike the original 3 or 4 vehicles that were simply stored there, these craft are maintained in operational condition, with teams of engineers and technicians conducting daily inspections and testing procedures. Personnel describe seeing craft that appear to be in various states of functionality, from completely inert vehicles to others that display active energy signatures and responsive control systems. The hangars themselves have been redesigned with reinforced containment fields and electromagnetic shielding that can be activated if any of the craft show unexpected activity. Communication protocols established at S4 represent the most significant development in human-alien interaction documented to date. Teams of specially trained linguists, psychologists, and military intelligence officers work in shifts to maintain ongoing dialogue with recovered beings housed in the facility's biological containment areas. These sessions follow structured formats using prepared question sets similar to diplomatic negotiations, with human personnel presenting queries through telepathic interfaces while recording all responses for analysis by teams of cryptographers and xenobiologists. The beings have provided detailed information about their origins, their monitoring activities on Earth, and the broader galactic community they represent. Oscar Wolf's deathbed testimony to Danny Sheehan provides crucial context for understanding S4's evolution. Wolf described witnessing his commander communicate telepathically with a being behind a one-way mirror, using index cards with prepared questions. The being claimed to represent different star systems within the galaxy, tasked with monitoring planets where life had begun. Wolf's account of seeing actual saucers floating in underground hangars matches current reports from facility personnel, suggesting the basic operational structure has remained consistent even as the scale has expanded dramatically. The facility has evolved from simple storage and study to active research and interaction, with laboratories dedicated to reverse engineering alien technology and medical facilities equipped to maintain the health of non-human entities in captivity. Research teams work to understand propulsion systems, energy generation methods, and communication technologies recovered from crash sites and intact vehicles. Medical personnel have developed life support protocols that can sustain different types of alien physiology, with each being requiring specialized atmospheric conditions, nutrition, and environmental controls. The complexity of these operations requires hundreds of personnel with various specializations, all working under the highest levels of security classification. International personnel from allied nations now participate in joint operations at S4, marking a significant shift toward multinational cooperation on extraterrestrial matters. Scientists and military officers from the United Kingdom, Canada, Australia, and Japan have been granted access to specific areas of the facility as part of intelligence sharing agreements. These foreign personnel bring specialized expertise in areas where American capabilities are limited, including advanced materials science, quantum computing, and biological research. The presence of international teams also serves as verification that S4 operations are being conducted according to agreed-upon protocols rather than purely American interests. Security upgrades implemented throughout 2025 include biometric identification systems that scan retinas, fingerprints, and genetic markers before granting access to any area of the facility. New containment procedures involve triple redundant locking mechanisms on all chambers housing alien technology or beings, with automated systems that can seal entire sections if breach protocols are detected. Personnel are required to undergo psychological evaluation every 30 days to ensure they remain mentally stable while working with non-human entities and advanced technologies. Communication monitoring systems record all interactions between human staff and alien beings to prevent unauthorized information sharing or psychological manipulation. Successful telepathic communication sessions have yielded unprecedented insights into alien intentions and capabilities, with human operators trained to maintain mental barriers while receiving information from non-human sources. These operators undergo months of preparation, including meditation training, psychological conditioning, and practice with electromagnetic amplification devices that enhance human telepathic receptivity. Session transcripts reveal conversations about galactic politics, the purpose of Earth monitoring programs, and warnings about potential threats from hostile alien factions. The beings consistently emphasize their role as observers and researchers rather than conquerors, though they acknowledge other groups with different intentions. The technology used to facilitate telepathic communication involves electromagnetic field generators that synchronize human brainwave patterns with alien neural frequencies. These devices, originally developed through reverse engineering alien equipment, create a shared mental space where thoughts can be exchanged despite the biological differences between species. Operators report that successful communication requires complete mental focus and emotional stability, as alien thought patterns can be overwhelming for unprepared human minds. Safety protocols limit communication sessions to 30-minute intervals with mandatory recovery periods to prevent psychological damage to human participants. Documentation from S4 operations now fills entire warehouses with technical specifications, communication transcripts, and research findings that will take decades to fully analyze and understand. This information forms the foundation for humanity's preparation for broader contact with alien civilizations, providing crucial insights into their technology, social structures, and intentions regarding Earth. The facility continues expanding its operations as more recovered craft and beings arrive, with each new addition providing additional pieces of the puzzle surrounding extraterrestrial presence on Earth. But understanding these beings requires more than just communication. It requires examining the physical evidence they've left behind across decades of contact. The Crash Retrieval Evidence Revolution. Recovery teams working across 6 states have uncovered 17 previously unknown crash sites during 2025, with some incidents dating back to the 1940s that somehow escaped official documentation. These sites were located using declassified military flight path data, cross-referenced with geological surveys showing unusual mineral deposits and electromagnetic anomalies in the soil. The most significant discovery came from rural Montana, where investigators found nearly intact sections of a vehicle that crashed in 1952, complete with internal components still generating detectable energy signatures after 70 years. Advanced spectroscopic analysis techniques developed in 2025 have revealed properties in recovered materials that weren't detectable with previous technology. Scientists at Los Alamos National Laboratory use quantum scanning systems that analyze molecular structures at the subatomic level, revealing that alien alloys contain isotopes that don't occur naturally on Earth. These materials demonstrate properties that violate known physics, including negative mass characteristics and the ability to manipulate gravitational fields at the molecular level. Laboratory tests show that small samples of recovered hull material can reduce their apparent weight by up to 40% when subjected to specific electromagnetic frequencies. High-resolution imaging systems can now penetrate the hull materials of stored vehicles to reveal internal structures without damaging the artifacts. These scans show that what appeared to be solid hull sections actually contain intricate networks of microscopic channels that carry energy throughout the craft's structure. The internal architecture includes what appear to be biological components integrated with mechanical systems, suggesting these vehicles are grown rather than manufactured. Some craft contain chambers filled with a liquid substance that maintains specific chemical properties even after decades of storage. Mysterious symbols found on multiple recovered vehicles appear to represent some form of standardized identification system used across different craft types. Military analysts have cataloged over 200 distinct symbols appearing on vehicles recovered from crashes spanning 7 decades, with certain symbol combinations appearing consistently on craft found in different geographic regions. The symbols are not etched or painted onto hull surfaces but appear embedded within the material itself, becoming visible only when subjected to specific lighting conditions or electromagnetic fields. Linguistic experts working with the Pentagon's Cryptographic Analysis Division have identified patterns suggesting the symbols represent numerical systems, navigation coordinates, or manufacturing specifications. Evidence from crash sites indicates at least 4 distinct types of craft designs, each with unique propulsion systems and hull materials that suggest different origins or purposes. Classic disc-shaped vehicles represent about 60% of recovered craft, with hull designs optimized for atmospheric flight and ground-based operations. Triangular craft make up roughly 25% of recoveries and feature advanced stealth capabilities, with hull materials that absorb radar and visual light across multiple spectrums. Cylindrical vehicles represent about 10% of recoveries and appear designed for long-distance travel, with internal compartments suggesting crew quarters and extended mission capabilities. Statistical analysis reveals a direct correlation between crash sites and subsequent increases in UAP activity within a 50-mile radius of recovery locations. Regions where crashes occurred in the 1950s and 1960s continue to experience above-average sighting rates, with some areas showing activity levels 5 times higher than the national average. Electronic surveillance equipment placed near historical crash sites has detected regular electromagnetic pulses that correspond with increased aerial activity, suggesting these locations remain important to whatever intelligence controls the craft. Physical evidence from multiple crash sites indicates that some incidents were intentional landings rather than accidental impacts. Impact patterns at certain sites show evidence of powered descent rather than uncontrolled crashes, with landing gear impressions and minimal debris fields suggesting the craft were set down deliberately. Witness testimonies from military personnel describe finding vehicles that appeared intact except for specific components that had been deliberately removed, as if the occupants had time to extract critical systems before abandoning the craft. These controlled crash scenarios typically occur in remote military training areas or near classified installations. Material analysis has revealed that recovered craft components show signs of intentional design for eventual human discovery and study. Hull materials contain microscopic structures that become more apparent when examined with terrestrial scientific equipment, almost as if they were designed to reveal their properties gradually as human technology advanced. Internal components include interfaces that appear compatible with human physiology, including control surfaces sized for human hands and display systems that respond to human neural activity. These design elements suggest the craft operators anticipated eventual human interaction and incorporated features that would facilitate technology transfer. Chain of custody documentation reveals significant gaps in how crash evidence has been preserved over decades, with some materials disappearing entirely from secure storage facilities, while others have been transferred between agencies without proper documentation. Military personnel involved in early recovery operations report that orders came directly from Pentagon officials who removed evidence within hours of crash discoveries, often before local military commanders could conduct thorough investigations. Several former military officers have testified that crash materials were regularly transferred to private defense contractors for analysis, creating a dispersed network of evidence that makes comprehensive study difficult. Documentation from crash retrievals consistently corroborates witness testimonies from military personnel who reported encounters with intact craft and surviving occupants. Witness descriptions of craft capabilities, occupant characteristics, and technology features match physical evidence found at crash sites separated by decades and thousands of miles. Military records show that personnel involved in crash recoveries often reported subsequent encounters with similar craft in the same geographic regions, supporting theories that these incidents are part of ongoing operations rather than isolated accidents. This evidence fundamentally challenges previous assumptions about non-human technology and intentions, suggesting these beings operate under protocols that anticipate human discovery of their capabilities. The technological integration features, intentional crash patterns, and ongoing activity near recovery sites indicate a systematic approach to gradual disclosure rather than accidental exposure. Intelligence agencies now interpret crash retrievals as part of a larger program designed to slowly introduce humanity to advanced technologies while monitoring our readiness for more direct contact. The consistency between physical evidence and witness accounts has convinced analysts that we're dealing with coordinated operations spanning decades, but the full scope of these activities is only now becoming clear as those who witnessed them firsthand finally feel safe enough to speak publicly. Military personnel break their silence. Throughout 2025, military personnel have been coming forward with accounts that would have been impossible to share just 2 years ago. The wave started in January when a former Air Force technical sergeant testified before Congress about his experiences at Malmstrom Air Force Base in the 1980s. He described being assigned to a special detail that transported equipment to underground areas he never knew existed. The sergeant said his commanding officer brought him to what they called the lower levels, where he saw craft that weren't in any manual he'd ever studied. These weren't experimental aircraft from Lockheed or Boeing. They were sitting there in these huge underground bays, and some of them were giving off this low humming sound, even though nobody was operating them. What makes these 2025 testimonies different is the specificity. A Navy electronics technician who worked at China Lake Naval Weapons Station described being called down to Sublevel 7 during a night shift in 1995. He said they had him run diagnostics on communication equipment that was unlike anything in the Navy inventory. The displays showed symbols instead of English text, and when he asked his supervisor about it, he was told the equipment was for special diplomatic communications. The technician said he later learned that Sublevel 7 was where they kept what his co called the visitors. He never saw them directly, but he heard conversations in languages that didn't sound human coming from secured areas behind reinforced doors. The UAP Disclosure Act passed in late 2024 created legal protections for military whistleblowers that didn't exist before. Personnel who were previously afraid of court-martial or loss of security clearances now have statutory protection when they report UAP-related activities through proper channels. A former Army intelligence officer who served at Fort Carson described how this protection finally allowed him to report what he witnessed in 2003. He said his unit was tasked with providing security for a recovery operation in the Colorado mountains after radar operators tracked an object that went down during a thunderstorm. The recovery team found a craft that was mostly intact, with occupants inside that were still alive but injured. Reports from different military branches spanning 5 decades show remarkable consistency in their descriptions of underground operations and non-human contact. Air Force personnel from Nellis, Navy technicians from Point Mugu, and Army officers from White Sands all describe similar experiences with craft stored in subterranean facilities and ongoing interaction programs with recovered beings. A former Marine Corps security specialist who worked at 29 Palms described being assigned to what they called deep patrol duties that took him into natural cave systems that had been modified with concrete reinforcement and electrical systems. He said there were areas down there where the lighting was different, almost like daylight but coming from panels in the ceiling, and the air had a metallic taste that made breathing difficult without respiratory equipment. The personal costs these individuals faced before speaking publicly cannot be understated. Many lost their careers, their marriages, and their relationships with family members who couldn't handle the implications of what they were sharing. A former Air Force logistics officer described 20 years of nightmares and anxiety attacks after witnessing what he called diplomatic meetings between senior military officials and beings that were clearly not human. He said he started drinking heavily to cope with what he'd seen and eventually lost his security clearance and his career. The officer said he attempted suicide twice before finding the courage to seek help and eventually speak publicly about his experiences. Verification processes being used to authenticate these testimonies include psychological stress evaluators that can detect deception with high accuracy rates. The New Paradigm Institute has been conducting these evaluations on military witnesses, and the results consistently support the truthfulness of their accounts. A former Navy sonar technician who claimed to have tracked unidentified underwater objects off the California coast passed multiple polygraph examinations and psychological evaluations. His accounts of objects moving underwater at speeds that would be impossible for any known submarine technology have been corroborated by radar data and witness statements from other naval personnel who were on duty during the same time periods. The coordinated nature of encounters described by military personnel indicates these are not random events but part of systematic operations. Multiple witnesses describe being briefed on protocols for interaction with non-human entities, suggesting established procedures for managing ongoing contact. A former Army communications specialist described being trained on special radio equipment that was used to coordinate with what his commanding officer called our diplomatic partners. The specialist said the training included instruction on communication procedures that involved specific frequency ranges and signal patterns that were unlike anything used for human military communications. Direct interaction accounts from military personnel include detailed descriptions of communication with non-human entities. A former Air Force security policeman described being present during what he was told were negotiation sessions between military officials and beings that communicated through some form of thought transmission. The policeman said he could sense the communication happening even though he couldn't understand the content, and he described feeling overwhelmed by emotions and concepts that weren't his own. He said the beings appeared to be providing technical information in exchange for access to military facilities and personnel for their research activities. These testimonies are corroborating previously dismissed witness accounts from civilian contractors and military personnel who spoke out decades ago without legal protection. Congressional hearings on UAPs now regularly feature testimony from current and former military personnel who describe encounters that were classified for decades. Pentagon officials who previously denied any knowledge of UFO incidents are now acknowledging that military personnel have been reporting these encounters through official channels for years. The shift from denial to acknowledgement represents a fundamental change in how government agencies handle UAP-related information and witness testimony. The verification and authentication of military witness testimonies continues as more personnel come forward under legal protection. Intelligence agencies are using sophisticated analysis techniques to corroborate witness accounts with classified data from military sensors and communication systems. This verification process is building a comprehensive database of authenticated encounters that forms the foundation for what government officials now acknowledge must become formal disclosure policies. The momentum created by these testimonies has forced congressional leadership to establish specific deadlines and requirements that agencies can no longer ignore. Government disclosure timeline updates. These requirements have triggered the most comprehensive disclosure timeline in American history. February 12th marked the turning point when congressional leadership announced mandatory disclosure deadlines that completely changed how government agencies handle UAP information. The accelerated timeline emerged from closed-door sessions where Intelligence Committee members reviewed classified materials that convinced them immediate action was necessary. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and House Speaker Mike Johnson issued a joint statement establishing firm deadlines for declassification of UAP-related documents dating back to 1947. The timeline requires initial document releases by September 2025, with complete disclosure of all non-operational materials by December 2026. The 2025 National Defense Authorization Act includes specific milestones that government agencies must meet or face congressional subpoenas and funding cuts. The Pentagon must provide quarterly briefings to House and Senate Intelligence Committees detailing all UAP encounters involving military personnel. The CIA has 60 days to declassify materials related to crash retrievals and technology recovery operations conducted since 1950. NASA must establish public databases containing all UAP sensor data collected by agency satellites and research aircraft. The Department of Energy faces requirements to disclose any involvement in studying recovered extraterrestrial materials or energy systems. Political pressure driving government transparency comes from unexpected sources across party lines. Republican senators who previously avoided UAP discussions are now demanding answers about national security implications of non-human technology. Democratic representatives are focusing on transparency and public accountability in government operations. Senator Marco Rubio chairs the Intelligence Committee's UAP Working Group and has stated that classified briefings convinced him the phenomenon represents legitimate national security concerns requiring immediate disclosure. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has called for complete government transparency on UAP matters, arguing that citizens have the right to know about non-human intelligence operating in American airspace. Bureaucratic resistance varies dramatically between agencies, with some cooperating fully while others actively obstruct disclosure efforts. The Department of Defense has established the Disclosure Compliance Office staffed with 40 personnel dedicated to processing UAP document releases, according to congressional timelines. Pentagon officials regularly brief lawmakers on UAP encounters and provide technical analysis of recovered materials. NASA Administrator Bill Nelson has publicly supported full disclosure and directed agency scientists to share UAP research findings with civilian researchers. The National Security Agency remains the most resistant to disclosure requirements, claiming that UAP communications intelligence could compromise ongoing operations. International coordination efforts involve allied nations sharing UAP intelligence and establishing common disclosure protocols. The Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance has established joint UAP analysis centers that share encounter data and technical findings. British Ministry of Defense officials have committed to releasing UAP files that correspond with American disclosure timelines. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced that Canada will declassify UAP materials in coordination with American efforts. Australian Defence Force leadership has established UAP investigation units that share findings with allied nations through secure intelligence channels. Strategic information release follows careful consideration of public readiness and national security implications. Intelligence agencies are releasing materials in phases designed to gradually prepare the public for more significant revelations. Initial releases focus on historical encounters and basic technical information about recovered materials. Later phases will include more detailed technical specifications and information about ongoing interaction programs with non-human entities. The final phase involves disclosure of diplomatic protocols and long-term agreements being negotiated with extraterrestrial civilizations. The legal framework protecting whistleblowers includes the UAP Disclosure Protection Act, which provides statutory immunity for government employees who report UAP-related activities through proper channels. The legislation protects personnel from retaliation, job loss, or criminal prosecution when they disclose UAP information to congressional oversight committees or designated civilian organizations. Whistleblower protections extend to contractors and former government employees who possess UAP-related information. The law establishes legal defense funds for individuals who face retaliation despite statutory protections. Congressional oversight involves multiple committees with jurisdiction over different aspects of UAP disclosure efforts. The House Intelligence Committee reviews classified UAP materials and determines what information can be safely released to the public. The Senate Armed Services Committee oversees military UAP programs and ensures disclosure compliance by defense agencies. The House Committee on Science, Space, and Technology manages civilian UAP research programs and coordinates with academic institutions studying the phenomenon. These committees conduct regular hearings featuring government officials, military personnel, and civilian researchers discussing UAP encounters and disclosure progress. Public pressure campaigns organized by civilian advocacy groups have significantly influenced disclosure timelines and government cooperation. The UAP Disclosure Fund coordinates lobbying efforts targeting specific congressional representatives and senators in all 435 congressional districts. Citizens for Disclosure organizes letter-writing campaigns and town hall meetings where constituents pressure elected officials to support disclosure legislation. The New Paradigm Institute establishes local offices in each state to coordinate grassroots advocacy efforts and provide citizens with specific information about their representatives' positions on UAP issues. Documents scheduled for release in coming months include Pentagon technical analysis reports on recovered craft propulsion systems, CIA memoranda detailing crash retrieval operations from the 1950s through 1980s, NASA sensor data showing UAP encounters with space missions, and State Department cables discussing UAP encounters with foreign governments. The National Archives will receive transferred UAP materials from multiple agencies for public research access beginning in January 2026. These releases represent the largest disclosure of classified government information since the Pentagon Papers, fundamentally changing public understanding of extraterrestrial presence on Earth. But disclosure of documents and evidence is only part of the story. The most significant developments are happening in real time at classified facilities where government personnel are making direct contact with recovered beings, establishing communication protocols that are revolutionizing our understanding of non-human intelligence and their intentions on Earth. The telepathic communication breakthroughs. The breakthrough came in March when military personnel at a classified facility successfully established two-way communication with a recovered being using electromagnetic amplification protocols. The sessions happen in a specially constructed room with reinforced walls that contain electromagnetic field generators positioned around a central communication chair. Personnel describe the setup as similar to an MRI machine, but with additional equipment that creates what scientists call a neural synchronization field. The human operator sits in the chair while technicians monitor brain-wave patterns on multiple screens, adjusting the electromagnetic frequency until it matches the alien entity's neural output. When synchronization occurs, thoughts can be exchanged directly without spoken language or physical gestures. The technology involves sophisticated equipment that took years to develop through reverse engineering alien devices found at crash sites. Engineers working on the project describe components that don't follow conventional electronics principles, with circuits that seem to operate on biological rather than mechanical processes. The electromagnetic field generators use crystals that were recovered from alien craft, and these crystals respond to human brain activity in ways that conventional materials cannot. Technicians have learned to calibrate the equipment by monitoring the operator's stress levels and neural activity, making real-time adjustments to prevent mental overload or psychological damage. The entire system requires constant monitoring because improper calibration can cause severe neurological effects including memory loss, seizures, and permanent brain damage. Communication sessions typically begin with basic concept exchanges before progressing to more complex information sharing. Early conversations focus on simple ideas like numbers, colors, and geometric shapes to establish a baseline for understanding. Operators report that alien thought patterns feel completely different from human consciousness, with concepts that arrive as complete packages rather than sequential thoughts. The beings communicate in what personnel describe as emotional conceptual clusters that contain far more information than human language can express. A single transmitted concept might include mathematical formulas, visual images, emotional content, and historical context all delivered simultaneously. Human operators require extensive training to process these information packages without becoming overwhelmed by the volume and complexity of data. Personnel selection for communication operations involves rigorous psychological testing and months of specialized training. Candidates undergo extensive meditation training designed to help them maintain mental stability while receiving alien thought transmissions. The training includes techniques borrowed from various spiritual traditions, including holotropic breathing exercises, mindfulness meditation, and what trainers call consciousness expansion protocols. Candidates practice receiving electromagnetic stimulation at gradually increasing intensities to build their tolerance for the neural interface process. Only about 15% of candidates successfully complete the training program, with most dropping out due to psychological stress or inability to maintain focus during electromagnetic exposure. The dangers associated with telepathic contact attempts are significant and well documented by medical personnel monitoring these operations. What they call psionic assist technology has been known to cause permanent neurological damage when used improperly or for extended periods. Medical records show operators experiencing symptoms including chronic headaches, memory gaps, personality changes, and in severe cases, complete psychological breakdown. Several operators have reported experiencing intrusive thoughts and emotions that don't belong to them, suggesting that prolonged contact can create permanent mental connections with alien entities. Safety protocols now limit communication sessions to 30 minutes maximum, with mandatory 72-hour recovery periods between attempts. The content of successful communications has fundamentally changed scientific understanding of extraterrestrial intelligence and their presence on Earth. The beings consistently describe themselves as part of what they call monitoring operations that span multiple star systems throughout our galaxy. One entity explained that they represent different civilizations that have formed collaborative agreements to observe developing worlds where life has reached critical evolutionary stages. The beings stated they are part of a group from different star systems in the galaxy who have all been tasked with going around together to different planets where life has actually begun and to monitor how it's going. This suggests Earth is part of a much larger galactic observation program involving multiple alien civilizations working together. Communications reveal that these beings possess detailed knowledge of human history, technology, and social development spanning thousands of years. They discuss human civilizations with the familiarity of long-term observers, referencing historical events and technological developments as if they witnessed them firsthand. The entities express particular interest in human nuclear capabilities, environmental changes, and what they describe as consciousness evolution among Earth's population. They seem most concerned with humanity's potential for self-destruction and whether our species will successfully transition to what they call interplanetary awareness. Their communications indicate they view themselves as guides or teachers rather than conquerors, though they acknowledge other groups with different intentions. Verification methods for authenticating telepathic exchanges include sophisticated monitoring equipment that records brainwave patterns, electromagnetic field fluctuations, and physiological responses during communication sessions. Psychological stress evaluators monitor operators for signs of deception or mental manipulation, while digital recording systems capture all electromagnetic activity in the communication chamber. Multiple operators participate in verification protocols where they separately receive the same information from alien entities and compare their experiences for consistency. Medical personnel conduct comprehensive neurological examinations before and after each session to document any changes in brain function or psychological state. Successful communication programs are directly influencing government disclosure decisions and public policy regarding extraterrestrial contact. Intelligence gathered through telepathic exchanges provides crucial information about alien intentions, capabilities, and long-term plans for Earth. Government officials use communication transcripts to develop diplomatic strategies and assess potential threats from different alien factions. The information obtained through these channels has convinced policymakers that formal disclosure is necessary to prepare humanity for eventual open contact with multiple extraterrestrial civilizations. But these communications have revealed something even more significant than individual encounters. They've provided detailed intelligence about the various species currently operating on Earth and their complex relationships with each other. The Alien Species Intelligence Update. Intelligence gathered throughout 2025 reveals at least 7 distinct extraterrestrial species currently operating on or near Earth, each with unique characteristics, capabilities, and apparent objectives. The classification system developed by military intelligence categorizes these beings based on physical attributes, technological capabilities, communication methods, and behavioral patterns observed during encounters with human personnel. Type Alpha entities represent the classic gray beings standing approximately 4 feet tall with large heads and dark eyes, typically associated with medical examination procedures and biological sampling activities. Type Beta includes taller humanoid beings reaching 6 to 7 feet in height with pale skin and more human-like features, often observed in leadership roles during contact scenarios. Type Gamma encompasses reptilian-featured beings with scaled skin and pronounced cranial ridges, frequently reported in underground facility operations. The most commonly encountered species shows remarkable consistency across decades of witness reports and recovered materials from crash sites. These beings stand between 3 and 4 feet in height, with proportionally large heads containing oversized black eyes that appear to lack visible pupils or irises. Their skin appears gray or pale with a texture that witnesses describe as smooth but slightly translucent. Personnel who have interacted with these entities report they communicate primarily through telepathic transmission rather than spoken language, with thoughts arriving as complete conceptual packages rather than sequential words. Medical examinations conducted on recovered specimens reveal internal organ structures that differ significantly from human anatomy, including enlarged brain cavities and cardiovascular systems that operate on different principles than mammalian biology. Taller humanoid beings represent what intelligence analysts consider a separate species or possibly a different caste within the same civilization. These entities reach heights of 6 to 7 feet and possess more human-like proportions, though their features remain distinctly non-human. Their skin appears pale with an almost luminescent quality, and their eyes are larger than human proportions but smaller than the classic gray beings. Military personnel describe these taller beings as appearing to hold authority positions during observed interactions, often directing the activities of shorter gray entities during facility operations. Communication with these beings suggests they possess advanced understanding of human psychology and social structures, indicating long-term study of our civilization. Reptilian-featured entities represent perhaps the most unsettling category of beings encountered by military personnel. These creatures possess scaled skin with coloration ranging from green to brown, with pronounced cranial ridges and eyes that appear more predatory than the other observed species. Their height varies from 5 to 8 feet, with muscular builds that suggest physical capabilities exceeding human strength. Personnel reports indicate these beings demonstrate aggressive behavior patterns and appear less interested in cooperative interaction than other species. Intelligence analysts theorize these entities may represent a military or enforcement caste within whatever organizational structure governs extraterrestrial operations on Earth. Evidence suggests complex relationships and apparent hierarchies exist between different alien species, with some groups appearing to work in coordination, while others operate independently or potentially in competition. Facility observations document meetings between representatives of different species, suggesting diplomatic or administrative relationships that span multiple civilizations. Communication intercepts indicate these beings follow established protocols when interacting with human authorities, though the nature of these agreements remains classified. Military intelligence has identified what appears to be a council structure involving representatives from at least 4 different species that makes decisions about Earth-related operations and human interaction policies. Long-term monitoring programs conducted by these entities appear to span thousands of years based on their demonstrated knowledge of human history and technological development. The beings consistently describe themselves as observers tasked with monitoring developing civilizations throughout the galaxy, with Earth representing one of many worlds under their observation. Archaeological evidence suggests these monitoring activities have been ongoing since ancient times, with unexplained artifacts and historical accounts potentially representing evidence of sustained extraterrestrial presence throughout human civilization. The scope and duration of these programs indicate a level of organization and resource commitment that suggests galactic-scale operations involving multiple civilizations working in coordination. Organizational structures among alien groups appear to follow hierarchical models similar to human military or governmental systems, with clear chains of command and specialized roles for different types of beings. Intelligence analysis reveals that smaller gray entities typically perform technical and research functions, while taller humanoids handle diplomatic and administrative responsibilities. Reptilian beings appear to serve security and enforcement roles, though their exact position within the hierarchy remains unclear. Some species appear to operate independently while maintaining communication with other groups through established channels, suggesting a confederation or alliance structure rather than unified command. The implications of multiple species with potentially different agendas present significant challenges for human diplomatic and security planning. Intelligence assessments indicate that while most observed species appear focused on research and monitoring activities, differences in their approaches and apparent interests could create conflicts that affect human civilization. Some groups demonstrate greater willingness to share technology and information, while others maintain strict protocols limiting interaction with human personnel. These differences suggest that humanity may need to develop separate diplomatic relationships with different alien civilizations rather than treating them as a unified group. Current observations of alien activities show patterns consistent with historical accounts from abduction witnesses and military personnel spanning several decades. The consistency of reported procedures, physical descriptions, and technological capabilities across multiple witness accounts, separated by decades and geographical distance, supports the authenticity of these encounters. Modern intelligence gathering confirms many details reported by witnesses who were previously dismissed or discredited, validating their accounts and providing crucial insight into long-term alien operations on Earth. But the picture emerging from 2025 intelligence reports suggests these species aren't operating in perfect harmony. Recent facility observations document heated exchanges between different groups, with some meetings ending abruptly when representatives from certain species refuse to participate in joint operations. The careful diplomatic balance that has apparently existed for decades may be shifting, and the implications for Earth's future are becoming increasingly complex as these civilizations pursue their own distinct objectives. The power struggle between alien civilizations. Intelligence reports from 2025 reveal mounting evidence that different extraterrestrial groups are engaged in territorial disputes and resource competition that directly affects Earth's strategic value in broader galactic politics. Military personnel stationed at underground facilities describe witnessing confrontations between different types of beings, with reptilian entities attempting to access areas controlled by the smaller gray beings. A former Air Force security specialist reported seeing what appeared to be a standoff between two groups of aliens in a facility corridor, with each group maintaining defensive positions while human personnel were ordered to evacuate the area. The incident lasted several hours before the reptilian beings withdrew, suggesting established protocols exist for managing interspecies conflicts on human territory. According to constitutional lawyer Danny Sheehan, the Church of Scientology maintains detailed intelligence about what they describe as a major confrontation going on between reptilian extraterrestrial species from Zeta Reticuli and the people from the Pleiades. The Church identifies the reptilians as adversaries working to alter Earth's climate and environmental conditions to suit their physiological requirements, while positioning the Pleiadians as protective allies working to prevent reptilian dominance over human civilization. Church officials claim they possess evidence that reptilian entities have formed alliances with elements within U.S. intelligence and defense infrastructure, creating a shadow partnership that operates outside normal government oversight and democratic accountability. These conflicts appear to be influencing human affairs and disclosure timing in ways that most government officials don't fully understand. Intelligence analysts have tracked patterns showing that UFO activity increases dramatically during periods of international tension or environmental crisis, suggesting these alien factions are positioning themselves to take advantage of human vulnerabilities. The timing of recent disclosure efforts correlates with reports of increased conflict between different alien groups, indicating that human authorities may be responding to pressure from competing extraterrestrial factions rather than making independent decisions about transparency. Cooperation agreements between certain species create additional complexity in what appears to be a multi-sided competition for influence over human civilization. Communication intercepts from facility operations describe meetings between representatives of different alien groups, suggesting diplomatic relationships that involve negotiated territories and resource-sharing arrangements. The smaller gray beings appear to have established working relationships with taller humanoid entities, while reptilian groups operate more independently and sometimes in opposition to the other factions. These alliances create challenges for human authorities who must navigate relationships with multiple groups that may have competing interests and conflicting agendas regarding Earth's future development. Earth's strategic location within this galaxy makes it valuable to multiple extraterrestrial civilizations for reasons that extend beyond simple resource extraction or biological research. Military intelligence suggests our planet serves as a way station or monitoring post for civilizations conducting long-range exploration and colonization programs throughout this region of the galaxy. The abundance of biological diversity, available water resources, and developing technological civilization make Earth an ideal location for establishing permanent operations that can support extended missions to other star systems. Different alien groups appear to view Earth as either a research facility, a strategic military position, or a potential colony site, creating inevitable conflicts over access rights and operational control. Human governments find themselves navigating complex interspecies relationships without clear precedents or established diplomatic protocols for managing multiple alien civilizations simultaneously. Pentagon officials describe briefings where they must consider the reactions of different alien factions when making decisions about military deployments, technology development, and disclosure policies. State Department personnel report receiving what appear to be diplomatic communications from different alien groups, each presenting their own version of Earth's strategic importance and humanity's role in galactic affairs. These communications often contain warnings about the intentions and activities of competing alien factions, forcing human authorities to evaluate conflicting information from sources whose true motivations remain unclear. The implications for humanity's future depend largely on our species' ability to maintain sovereignty while acknowledging the superior technological capabilities of these extraterrestrial civilizations. Military planners are developing contingency scenarios for situations where conflicts between alien factions could spill over into direct confrontation on Earth's surface or in near-Earth space. Intelligence agencies are working to understand the military capabilities and strategic objectives of different alien groups to assess which relationships might serve human interests and which could pose existential threats to our civilization. Understanding these power dynamics is reshaping diplomatic preparations as government officials realize they must develop separate negotiation strategies for different alien factions rather than treating extraterrestrial contact as a single unified phenomenon. Training programs for diplomatic personnel now include instruction on recognizing different alien species, understanding their apparent hierarchies and decision-making processes, and developing communication protocols that can accommodate radically different forms of intelligence and social organization. Congressional oversight committees are establishing separate working groups to handle relationships with different alien civilizations, recognizing that each group requires specialized knowledge and approach strategies. Strategic choices facing humanity involve determining which alien factions might serve as reliable partners in developing Earth's technological capabilities while protecting human autonomy and cultural identity. Intelligence assessments suggest that some alien groups are more willing to share advanced technologies and scientific knowledge, while others appear focused on maintaining technological superiority and controlling human development. The reptilian entities appear most interested in environmental modification and resource extraction, while the gray beings focus on biological research and genetic monitoring. Military intelligence indicates that decisions made in the next several years regarding alien relationships could determine humanity's position in galactic politics for centuries to come. The various alien factions appear to be positioning themselves for what they anticipate will be formal recognition and establishment of diplomatic relationships with human governments. Each group is offering different forms of technological assistance, scientific knowledge, and protection from other alien threats in exchange for access to Earth's resources, human cooperation in research programs, or strategic alliance agreements. The complexity of these competing offers has forced government officials to begin considering frameworks that could govern humanity's relationships with multiple extraterrestrial civilizations simultaneously, potentially for thousands of years into the future. The 10,000-year relationship protocols. According to constitutional lawyer Danny Sheehan, negotiations are already underway to establish protocols that will govern humanity's relationship with extraterrestrial civilizations for the next 10,000 years. This isn't speculative planning or theoretical framework development. Sheehan, who was sworn to secrecy regarding these discussions, confirms that representatives from multiple alien civilizations are actively participating in diplomatic sessions that will determine how our species interacts with technologically superior beings for the next 10 millennia. The scope extends far beyond typical international treaties, establishing precedents that will affect hundreds of future human generations. The timeline for these relationship frameworks spans periods that dwarf recorded human history. While most diplomatic agreements between human nations cover decades at most, these protocols are designed to remain viable across geological timescales. Alien representatives think in terms of extended temporal frameworks that account for human technological development, population growth, environmental changes, and social evolution over thousands of years. Intelligence sources describe negotiation documents that include provisions for humanity's eventual expansion beyond Earth, development of interstellar travel capabilities, and integration into galactic civilization structures. The beings view these 10,000-year protocols as relatively short-term arrangements that will be renegotiated when humanity reaches certain technological and social milestones. The negotiation process involves representatives from multiple human governments working through classified diplomatic channels that operate outside public oversight or democratic accountability. Pentagon officials describe meeting rooms where human negotiators sit across from alien representatives using telepathic communication technology developed at facilities like S4. The State Department has established a special diplomatic unit staffed with personnel trained in xenodiplomacy, including instruction on alien psychology, communication protocols, and cultural sensitivity for non-human civilizations. These negotiators receive briefings on alien social structures, decision-making processes, and the strategic objectives of different extraterrestrial factions. Congressional oversight remains extremely limited, with only the highest-ranking Intelligence Committee members receiving basic briefings about negotiation progress. The Senate Intelligence Committee Chairman and House Intelligence Committee Chairwoman meet monthly with State Department officials and Pentagon representatives involved in the process, but even they lack access to specific terms being discussed or commitments being considered. This secrecy means protocols affecting humanity's entire future are being negotiated by small groups of unelected officials, without input from populations whose lives will be governed by these agreements for thousands of years. The terms apparently include technology sharing arrangements that would provide humanity with access to advanced propulsion systems, energy generation technologies, and medical capabilities in exchange for access to Earth's biological resources and human participation in ongoing research programs. Intelligence sources describe negotiation sessions where alien representatives offer demonstrations of technologies that could solve climate change, eliminate poverty, and extend human lifespans dramatically. However, these offerings come with conditions including restrictions on human military development, requirements for population control measures, and limitations on Earth's industrial expansion. The beings seem particularly concerned with preventing humanity from developing weapons systems that could threaten their operations or disrupt galactic stability. Multi-generational agreements present unprecedented challenges for human sovereignty because they commit future generations to decisions made by current leaders without democratic consultation. Constitutional scholars argue that no human government has legitimate authority to bind humanity to agreements extending thousands of years into the future. These protocols would create permanent treaties that future human civilizations could not modify or withdraw from without violating agreements made on their behalf by representatives they never elected. The implications include restrictions on human technological development, limitations on Earth's resource utilization, and requirements for ongoing cooperation with alien research programs extending far beyond current human lifespans. Technology sharing provisions address gradual transfer of advanced alien capabilities to human civilization over extended timeframes designed to prevent cultural shock or technological disruption. The agreements include schedules for introducing new technologies at rates that allow human society to adapt without experiencing rapid change that could destabilize governments or economic systems. Energy technologies would be introduced first, followed by medical advances, then transportation systems, and finally more advanced capabilities like consciousness enhancement and genetic modification techniques. The aliens seem determined to prevent the kind of rapid technological advancement they claim has destroyed other civilizations they've monitored throughout the galaxy. Cultural exchange elements focus on gradual integration of human and alien knowledge systems, including scientific methodologies, philosophical frameworks, and consciousness development techniques. The protocols establish exchange programs where selected humans would receive training in alien knowledge systems, while alien representatives study human creativity, emotional expression, and social organization methods. These cultural exchanges are designed to prepare humanity for eventual integration into larger galactic civilization structures while preserving what the aliens consider valuable aspects of human culture and psychology. The beings apparently view human emotional capabilities and creative thinking as unique contributions to galactic knowledge systems. Safeguards built into these protocols include provisions for regular review and modification of agreement terms as human civilization develops new capabilities and reaches predetermined developmental milestones. The aliens have agreed to establishment of joint oversight committees that include human representatives with authority to monitor compliance with protocol terms and request modifications when circumstances change. These safeguards also include protection measures designed to prevent any single alien faction from gaining dominant influence over human civilization, with requirements for consensus among multiple extraterrestrial groups before major changes can be implemented. The New Paradigm Institute is working to establish direct citizen-to-citizen communication with extraterrestrial beings, bypassing national security state structures in favor of more direct dialogue. They're setting up citizens for disclosure chapters within each of the 435 congressional districts and state-level offices in all 50 states, providing targeted information to citizens for sharing with elected representatives. This grassroots effort aims to influence government policy and promote transparency, building public support for disclosure and accountability in these negotiations that will determine humanity's future for millennia. But understanding the full scope of these protocols requires examining the intelligence files that have convinced government officials these negotiations are necessary. The documentation supporting these diplomatic efforts reveals the true extent of extraterrestrial presence on Earth and the urgency driving these unprecedented long-term agreements. What Danny Sheehan's 2025 files really reveal. Sheehan's 2025 files contain the most explosive intelligence revelations about government UFO operations ever assembled by a single legal practitioner. His updated intelligence documents include classified military memoranda describing ongoing alien contact programs, Pentagon technical analysis reports on recovered extraterrestrial technology, and State Department cables detailing diplomatic negotiations with multiple alien civilizations. Sheehan gained access to these materials through his legal representation of military whistleblowers and his role as general counsel for Congressional UAP disclosure initiatives. The files contain photographic evidence of crash retrievals, technical specifications for alien propulsion systems, and transcripts of telepathic communication sessions between government personnel and extraterrestrial beings that span decades of secret operations. His legal access provides unprecedented insight into government operations through his Harvard Law degree credentials and his decades of experience handling classified national security cases including Watergate and the Pentagon Papers. His position as general counsel for the Disclosure Project under Dr. Stephen Greer opened doors to intelligence sources who trust his commitment to public interest law and government transparency. Congressional representatives, including Congresswoman Luna, collaborate directly with Sheehan on UAP disclosure legislation, providing him with access to classified briefings and intelligence committee materials that remain unavailable to other civilian researchers. His security clearance and attorney-client privilege protections allow government insiders to share sensitive information without fear of prosecution or retaliation. The documentation Sheehan has reviewed includes military incident reports from crash retrieval operations dating back to 1945, with detailed descriptions of recovered craft, alien occupants, and technology analysis conducted at classified facilities. His files contain medical examination reports on extraterrestrial beings, including autopsy findings and biological analysis that reveals non-human physiology and genetic structures. Technical documents describe attempts to reverse engineer alien propulsion systems, energy generation methods, and communication technologies recovered from multiple crash sites. Sheehan has verified these documents through cross-referencing with witness testimonies, military service records, and physical evidence from government storage facilities. Congressional oversight materials in Sheehan's possession detail the legislative framework being established through the Controlled Disclosure Act, which mandates public release of government documents and evidence related to UAPs since January 1945. Sheehan participates in nominating members to the 9-person panel that will review classified materials for public release, ensuring legal experts with security clearances can evaluate documents without compromising legitimate national security interests. His role includes establishing criteria for what information can be safely disclosed while protecting ongoing operations and intelligence sources. The legal framework addresses whistleblower protections, document declassification procedures, and enforcement mechanisms for agencies that resist compliance with disclosure requirements. Sheehan's assessment of current alien-human relations indicates we are transitioning from covert contact to formal diplomatic recognition of extraterrestrial civilizations operating on Earth. His intelligence sources describe ongoing negotiations between government representatives and alien entities regarding technology sharing agreements, territorial access rights, and long-term cooperation protocols. Communication intercepts reveal that multiple alien species maintain permanent operations at underground facilities, where they conduct research programs in cooperation with human military and intelligence personnel. Sheehan believes these relationships have evolved beyond simple observation or occasional contact to active partnership arrangements that involve regular meetings, information exchange, and coordinated activities. The next phase of disclosure, according to Sheehan's predictions, involves public acknowledgement of alien presence within the next 18 months, followed by gradual release of technology demonstrations and eventual establishment of formal diplomatic relationships. His timeline projections indicate that government agencies will begin releasing physical evidence of alien technology, including public displays of recovered craft and demonstration of advanced propulsion systems. Congressional hearings will feature direct testimony from alien entities using the telepathic communication protocols developed at classified facilities. International coordination efforts will establish unified human positions for negotiating with extraterrestrial civilizations, preventing individual nations from making separate agreements that could disadvantage other countries. The power structures controlling UFO information, according to Sheehan, include what he identifies as the national security state, corporate defense contractors, and private interests that profit from maintaining technological superiority through exclusive access to alien technology. These entities have captured government agencies and resist full disclosure because public knowledge would eliminate their monopolistic advantages and threaten existing power relationships. Military-industrial complex corporations possess recovered alien technology and use reverse engineering programs to develop advanced weapon systems and aerospace capabilities that provide competitive advantages worth billions of dollars. Financial interests connected to energy, transportation, and technology sectors oppose disclosure because alien technology could obsolete existing industries and eliminate profit sources. Sheehan's vision for humanity's preparation for open contact emphasizes peaceful and productive relationships with extraterrestrial beings while protecting human interests and autonomy. His approach involves establishing direct communication through meditation and telepathic protocols that require loving intention and faith in positive outcomes rather than fear-based defensive postures. Training programs for human negotiators include instruction in alien psychology, communication methods, and cultural sensitivity for non-human civilizations. International cooperation ensures unified human responses rather than competitive national approaches that could be exploited by alien factions seeking to divide human governments. The legal protections Sheehan advocates include constitutional amendments that establish human rights in relation to extraterrestrial contact, preventing any agreements that could compromise human freedom or democratic governance. His framework requires transparency in all alien-related government activities, with regular public reporting on contact programs, technology research, and diplomatic negotiations. Enforcement mechanisms include citizen lawsuit rights against government agencies that violate disclosure requirements and congressional oversight authority to investigate noncompliance with transparency laws. These protections ensure that humanity's relationship with alien civilizations develops through democratic processes rather than secret negotiations conducted by unelected officials serving private interests rather than public welfare. The intelligence Sheehan has compiled represents more than historical documentation of past encounters. It provides a roadmap for understanding how decades of covert operations have positioned humanity at a critical juncture where the choices we make in the next few years will determine our species' relationship with advanced civilizations for generations to come. Danny Sheehan's intelligence files document a reality that demands immediate citizen action and government accountability. The evidence from 2025 makes one thing clear: we're not dealing with occasional visitors anymore. These beings have established permanent operations here, and they're preparing us for something much bigger than anyone imagined. The protocols being negotiated right now will determine whether humanity maintains its sovereignty or becomes a managed population under extraterrestrial supervision. Every citizen needs to understand what's happening because these decisions affect our children's children for thousands of years. Contact your representatives, demand transparency. The New Paradigm Institute has chapters in all 435 congressional districts because this isn't just about disclosure anymore, it's about humanity's future.